Me by Fred Schroeder, written in December 1999. My ancestors, father's side. I have family tree history tracing my father's family to Germany, Prussia probably, Schlava in Pomerania in the 1700s. I believe my great-grandparents all immigrated to Watertown and Sheboygan, Wisconsin around 1848, the potato famine days, and my grandparents were both born there, married, and moved to St. Paul, Minnesota. My father was born in St. Paul, and the family then moved to Portland, Oregon, the Albina district, when my father was 2 or 3 years old. Grandfather Schroeder ran a furniture store, which occasionally also included undertaking, on Russell Street near Vancouver Avenue in Albina. There were 7 children in the family, and my father, the oldest boy, by tradition had to quit school after the 8th grade and work in his father's store. Apparently, he learned salesmanship and linoleum laying there. The family lived around the corner, I believe on Flint Street. I think my father was always a little bitter because his 2 brothers went to college. Henry graduated from West Point, and he never got beyond the 8th grade. Dad was in the Army in World War I, but never went overseas. When he returned from the service, he spent a short time driving a motor stage between Seaside and Cannon Beach, sometimes on the sand at low tide, because whatever road was there was crude. He then went to work for Powers Furniture, selling appliances and installing carpet and linoleum. During World War I, his father had sold the furniture business because his sons were all in the service and he retired. I believe the new owners were still paying on the installment plan when the Depression hit, and somehow my dad got stuck with the unpaid bills and the property when they skipped out. I don't know if he ever got anything from his years of servitude helping out his father. Grandmother Henrietta Wilhelmina, maiden name Nitschke, Schroeder, died in Portland in 1928, and grandfather Henry Christian Schroeder died of a massive heart attack while visiting in California in 1926. They are buried in the Rose City Cemetery in Portland. Of Dad's 6 siblings, Maddie lived in Hanford, California, and I only met her once. She used to send us a box of great dried fruit from California every year at Christmas. Verge died in a mental institution after she saw her only child killed by a car in Portland. Henry had a very successful career as a career Army officer, so much so that I remember that he refused to meet with my dad and his family when they visited Portland one time. Carl married Frida, and after being out of work in the Depression, they moved to Beverly Hills, and Frida opened Frida Schroeder's Cake Bakery, catering particularly to wedding cakes for movie stars and notables. They were very successful and became quite wealthy. Although Carl really ran the place, Frida, of course, never let him forget whose name was on the door. I visited them once in Beverly Hills. Laura married Albion Gerber, and this was the only family we kept much in contact with. Clara married Dr. Herman Beersdorf, who was a physician in Portland. Since my mother was an only child, and most of Dad's relatives lived in California, our extended family when I was growing up consisted of the Gerber family, Al, Laura, children Bill, Alice, and Al Jr., some of the daughters of the Beersdorf family. Lillian and Ferd ran a dairy farm near Beaverton, Oregon, and we would go out there and eat really fresh corn and eat ice cream made from really fresh cream and play in the haystacks. And the Bernhard family. Carl Bernhard was a Lutheran pastor and a cousin of my father's. During the Depression, when church salary was tight, his wife Helen started a cake bakery in her home, and it eventually grew to a very successful business on Broadway Street in Portland, which I believe may still be there. Carl was defrocked by the Missouri Synod. I believe for being too successful, or maybe for admitting non-German heathens to his church. And our church on 24th and Broadway became Wisconsin Synod, and Carl retired to a chicken ranch on the Clackamas River. After he sold that, the family bought another place on the Clackamas, which they could easily afford with the bakery doing so well. When Dad bought our close-by summer place on the Clackamas, I think he was influenced by the Bernhards. In 1922, Dad, Leonard George Schroeder, married Louise Witchey in Portland. More on that later.